The news is lying to you. News is not a presentation of reality, but a representation of reality. And behind the scenes, there are people making deliberate decisions about how to represent a story to you. And these decisions affect the way we perceive what is happening. News and media outlets are actually just big businesses trying to make big profits. They want to get information out there quickly. They want to attract your attention quickly. And in doing so, some news sources have been compromising reliability and credibility, and that's the issue that we're facing. So today I'm going to tell you 3 things about the news and media. First, what's wrong with it? Second, what can we do about it? And third, why does this matter? So what's wrong with it? News has drastically changed in the last 10 years. With the pressure to supply a 24-hour news cycle, many news outlets are getting messy. The information they supply is not always fact-checked, it's not always backed up by credible sources, and oftentimes the information isn't even reliable or important. It's just sensationalist and there to grab your attention. But the most dangerous thing that's happening with the news now are its biases. First off, let me start out by saying there's no such thing as being unbiased. That's a common misconception. We are all biased in one way or another because we all have our own opinions. But the biases that affect the stories that are being represented in the news consequently impact our opinions, our communities, our country, and our world. For example, how many of you have kept up with the presidential campaigns lately? Okay, so all of you. The way the media represents these candidates have an immense impact on who we decide to vote for. So for example, candidates such as Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump receive constant media coverage, whereas candidates such as John Kasich or Matt O'Malley, many people know little to nothing about. Along with that is the way that media presents these candidates affect how likable they become. And this is just one example of how news impacts our lives. In addition, social media has revolutionized the way we receive our news. The Pew Research Center came out with a study that says that social media is the main source of news for people under 30. And this rang true for the participants I worked with on my project and for the professors I interviewed from Suffolk and Emerson, who also stated that they felt that students from this generation coming into college had less relevant knowledge about the world and more polarized opinions. So what can we do about it? News literacy is what we can do. News literacy is the concept to use critical thinking skills to judge if an information source or news report is credible or reliable. My hope is to implement news literacy skills in order to teach students at the high school level how to better inform themselves. So for my project, I've been working with a random sampling of 18 students who have participated in surveys and a workshop. In my workshop, I had an activity where I gave these students a variety of different sources on the same topic, which was the events that occurred in Baltimore last April. I had the students go through these sources, take a look at them, and complete a survey that asked, on a scale from 1 to 10, how well they thought the sources represented the events that occurred in Baltimore. Afterwards, I gave my presentation on different news literacy concepts. I asked them to go back, take a second look at the sources, and rate them again. 90% of the students said that their opinions had changed on at least one of the sources after learning about news literacy concepts. So what are some of these concepts? One of the things we looked at was loaded language. So did the sources choose to say protest or riot, citizen or thug? We also looked at bias by omission or inclusion. So whose voice is being heard and whose is not? What sources did they choose to interview and who did they choose to ignore? These biases were very visible in the Baltimore articles, but they're prevalent in most of the news and media that we consume. And news literacy is crucial for students to be able to better inform themselves in the world that we're living, a world that is dominated by news and media. And I believe that news literacy is influential in helping us figure out more about ourselves and our world. So why does this matter? Sure, it's important to be well informed and to be well versed on the issues that are going on in the world and just have a general knowledge of what's happening. But why does this really matter? Each one of you has something you really care about, whether it be the environment or politics or government or music or art or really anything. Each one of you has a passion or eventually will have a passion in this life, and you're going to want to go out there and do something with it. And news literacy is an incredible tool for that. If we can be aware of our own biases and of biases in the news and seek reliable information, if we can challenge our views and challenge other people's views, if we can be conscious of how we're informing ourselves and how we're informing one another, we can do some pretty amazing things. And on that note, I know that this can seem overwhelming, that there's so much massive information out there. How are you supposed to sift through it all? Well, being news literate doesn't mean that you have to know everything that's going on in the world all the time. It doesn't mean you need to deconstruct every news report you read. But it does mean that we can become conscious consumers of our news and media. We can take control of how we inform ourselves and one another. And we can make positive change in the world with that. Because in the world that we're living in, information is power. Thank you.